So asset tokenization is simply a way of representation of assets. Now, with blockchain, what it presents us is a new way to represent assets. And how assets are represented has always been evolving. At first, assets were represented using leaves, stones. And when the printing press was invented, asset ownership was recorded over papers. And when databases came through, asset ownership was recorded in these databases. Now, when even smarter infrastructure like blockchain comes along, there's definitely a way to represent assets. So assets are now represented as programmable objects, which are otherwise called tokens. And these assets, like our phones or the applications on phones that we call apps, have evolved to become much more smarter on a blockchain. What a typical blockchain infrastructure brings forward is standard structures to represent, or standard programmatic structures to represent assets. The cash flows, obligations, and rights of issuers, investors can be programmatically controlled, triggered, accessed, and hence tokenization becomes the most efficient form till date to represent assets. Now, how does it work? In a typical blockchain environment, assets primarily are represented as programmable objects that interact with smart contracts. And they are also governed by different forms of smart contracts that control ownership, that manage payouts, and hence bringing in efficiencies to the way assets are managed. One of the other important aspects of tokenization is the overheads of recording ownership of assets is automated away. That means that an asset can be infinitely divisible and then recorded at a very minute level. So one of the things that is possible is assets being accessed at a fractional level. And when we say fractional level, it is possible for investors to buy $1 of an asset or $10 of an asset, rather than the conventional way of 1 unit of asset costs you X amount of dollars. Because assets are infinitely divisible, it is possible for investors to aspire to buy $1 of assets. So we are simply changing how investors access it. The behavior is potentially different when basically accessing assets on a blockchain.